Hi, my name is Amy Cody. I am originally from Wisconsin, and I recently moved to Arizona to join Foran Media. Right now I'm working as a managing editor for Hygiene Town magazine and Dental Town magazine. I'm also practicing as a hygienist part-time. And I came in today to introduce the next virtue, honestas. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Honestas. Respectability, the image that one presents as a respectable member of society. What image are you projecting to your staff and your patients?
Well, thank you, Amy. Stay out here for a minute because a couple things. You were the one who introduced me to the Motorola walkie-talkies, and I simply don't think there's a greater thing that we've done in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years that made our office better, work together as a team. But I can't believe how much flack I get from other dentists. They think that's crazy. And some offices say, well, we only have one person up front and we only have one hygienist and one assistant. I'm still thinking, well, if you only got one receptionist, how can she run back and tell you something when people are up front, the phone's ringing? But tell them more what you think of the walkie-talkies. I want them to hear it from someone else.
Well, I really think the walkie-talkies are great. I think that you give your patients and your entire office a much better experience. When everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what's going on. The patient is literally taken care of from the moment they step in the office till they're completed, and everybody kind of knows. So there's just so much better communication, I guess. I really think it's an incredible value to the patient and the practice.
And ever since you turned me on to that, I've noticed, I guess I used to not notice it before. You go to restaurants and the maitre d', and yeah, now that we wear them, I see them everywhere. And before you told me about it, I don't think I ever noticed them anywhere. Also, when we started the Hygiene Town website, that's how we found you. I mean, you just were, my gosh, you just had brilliant posts after brilliant posts, and it was every day. Tell them about Hygiene Town magazine. And the thing I want to tell dentists is, a lot of times they have hygienists that are burned out or fried, and these hygienists are trying to play mom and profession, and they might have 2 or 3 kids and this and that. But I see what I see what Hygiene Town can do to make them get passionate about hygiene, just like Dental Town can make dentists passionate about hygiene. But talk about the importance of Hygiene Town website and message boards.
Well, Hygiene Town for me was a place that I could go where I could connect with other hygienists who maybe felt the same way about things that I do, especially when you work in an office with multiple hygienists. I mean, you're going to have differences, that's normal, but it's nice to have a place to go to kind of talk about those things, get a second opinion, or if you're thinking about integrating a new product, you can do a little research. You can get honest opinions from real people, not just somebody that's trying to push a product to you. It's also helped me network with people all over the country. I've just met some great people. I just think it's a really positive community, and it's real. The people are real.
And also, lastly but not least, tell them the truth that the real reason you left Wisconsin to come from Arizona is to get away from Brett Favre and that idiot football team and come to the Arizona Cardinals. Is that correct?
That's absolutely incorrect.
You're still a Brett Favre fan living in Arizona?
Of course.
But I still loved him the most in that movie, Something About Mary. Gosh, he was funny. But the virtue honestus, that's where the word honesty comes from, respectability. And think about how you look in your patient's eyes. They say service businesses are about relationships. Relationships are about feelings, not facts and information. In good relationships, the feelings are good and bad ones are bad. In service marketing and selling, the logical reasons that you should win the business, your competences, your excellence, your talent, just pay the entry fee. Winning is simply a matter of feelings, and feelings are about personalities and your staff being connected on Motorola walkie-talkies to give you a heads up. Hey, our next patient, Christine, she's a little upset. We're running 5 minutes late. Now the hygienist can walk up there. Hello, Christine, how are you doing? I'm so sorry I'm running 5 minutes late. And just having that timing, that relationship, everybody knowing what's going on is so fantastic. When we're talking about the virtue honestus, honesty, respectability, it's so nice to have third-person confirmation of what you're saying. It's so nice to use technology, but most of all, it's so great to get the patient involved. In the old days, we'd go around with the mirror and explore, and we'd see if they had a cavity. And the patient could never see what we saw, and we'd see a big old black hole, and we'd stick a hook in it, and they'd jump halfway out of the chair, and it was all negative. Now the patient gets a hold of this Diagnet. I can't say enough about the Diagnet. I don't know of a single piece of technology that pays for itself in 1 month, that gets the patient excited, gets them involved. They get a hold of this in their hands, and you run this over the pits and fissures of the tooth, and not only is the digital reading goes up, but they did something brilliant and genius. They made the noise go up. So when you sit there and you're going over some pit and fissures like, and then it comes to default, and the patient knows that animals, human beings learn show, touch, feel. They know the monitors up here, hear with their ears, they go in deep, they see visually the numbers. I mean, what do we got? Sight, touch, smell, taste, and they're seeing it, they're smelling it, they're hearing it, they're tasting it. They really, oh wow, that's right, there is a hole of him. In fact, I remember every time I drink Dr. Pepper, it kind of stings up there, and oh yeah, oh look at that number, my God, it's 74, and then the hygienist immediately, and like say, when I keep saying we're paperless, like here is another example of paper. We pull out a piece of paper and we'd go up rather number 3 and write 74. Now they saw that, they're involved with it. Now I don't have to walk in and say, you know, Frank, you got a cavity up there. They know, they've seen it, they felt it, they're involved. They know it's real, they heard the noise. These are so, dealing with humans, it's all about communication. Get to the point or you'll never get to the close. When you show them this stuff, then you can take out another sensual deal. Instead of a Diagnet, now you pull out your intraoral camera, you take a picture, they see a black hole. And patients don't understand light physics, so you have to explain to them that, you know, photons of light are flying in there the speed of light, 186,000 miles a second, and none of them are coming out. Black is not a color, it's the absence of light. White is not a color, it's all light coming back. So light hits this tooth and bounces back, and it flies in this hole and never comes out. I mean, if light flies in a hole and never comes out, there's something down there. And they heard the Diagnet number, and it was a 74, and it went loud noise, and then we nub it up, Septicane, and we clean out this hole, and there it is. And you pull out the intraoral camera and show them again, so that they know in their mind that a black hole is something like that when you clean it all out. And then you could also tell them, my gosh, you know, how far that was from being a root canal. Was it 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters? This will stress the importance of preventative dentistry over drill, fill, and bill. But what we're trying to do is make the patient own the problem. And it goes back to telling them that, look, now think about a cavity. The bacteria, they can't live in oxygen. Do you know how hard it is to get a piece of sugar up in a hole so far up in a hole that there's no oxygen? I mean, sugar is 6 carbon atoms long, and, you know, oxygen is O2, freely 20.9% in the air. Well, the only way that can happen is with the aid of acid. You had to carry sugar up there in your Dr. Pepper, in your Sprite, in your Coca-Cola. You just can't munch on a piece of celery or an orange and wedge sugar up there so far that O2 won't get to it. And so this is all an education process. We also got to explain to these patients, you know, keep teaching, where we know that these bacteria can't grow until the pH gets below 5.5. And, you know, when they get done eating, you know, when they start eating, they start salivating. And saliva does many functions. One of the things it does has enzymes in there to digest carbohydrates, you know that. But it also is getting the food off the mouth where it doesn't belong and into the stomach. And a lot of the foods we eat are sticky, like raisins or, you know, candy or caramel or whatever. And we dentists and hygienists, we end our meal with a big old huge glass of artificial saliva water with a big old neutral pH where these bacteria can't grow. Milk is 6.8, but see, a lot of them get mineral water. They say, oh, that water, do you want it sparkling? Well, sparkling's acid. It's more carbonic acid, and now we're lowering our mouth pH to 5.3 so all these bacteria can grow. Look at soda, 5.1, yogurt's 5.1, wine is 4, orange juice 3.6, Gatorade 3.1, Diet Coke 3.0, Coke 2.3, of course vinegar, which is the most, there's only 2 things that gross me out when someone else is eating this, vinegar and Parmesan cheese. And, you know, when they break out the vinegar and the Parmesan cheese, and look at vinegar, you know, maybe it just stinks so bad because I'm a dentist, pH 2.2, lemonade 2.0, look, your stomach acid 2.0, battery acid is 2.0, pool acid is 0.0. But the bottom line is, you got to give these handouts. Your doctor, who's ever teaching, is the doctor. Doctor Latin docere to teach. If the hygienist is doing this up front, if the receptionist is doing it up front, that's the doctor. And why do you teach all day long? You know, Albert Einstein says, in long intervals, I have expressed an opinion on public issues whenever they appeared to me so bad and unfortunate that silence would have made me feel guilty of complicity. It just really is sad when you have hygienists sitting there for an hour talking about Dr. Phil. And what did you think about this murder? And what do you think about this? That? I mean, they're not there for a date. They're not there for a social visit. You're a doctor hygienist, and you have all your teeth at 65, and a third of your patients lose them all. So keep teaching. Dental prevention, poor oral health, and regular preventative dentistry are outcomes of lifestyle, and they vary by social class. As populations are protected by water fluoridation, they become more careful about dental health and use their own cash or third-party coverage to consult dentists earlier. Expensive dental problems become less common and result from neglect. Insurance would redistribute resources from more to the less conscientious patients. To encourage regular examination and pro fees, some European social insurance eliminates deductibles and co-insurance for periodic checkups and impose co-insurance and co-payments as penalties on the more expensive dental claims. If much of dental insurance is becoming prepayment for preventative medicine, a problem is marketing it. No country has been able to sell large numbers of voluntary dental policies. If preventative dentistry is basically starts with the hygiene department. So when you schedule your hygiene, remember the numbers. If you're booked solid 2 weeks in advance, you cannot add a new hygiene patient unless a current hygiene patient leaves the practice. So you would need to add capacity, add another hygienist, or increase the speed of your existing cleanings, increase your turnover speed, or just raise your hygiene fees. You need the infrastructure to treat new patients. And remember, new patients have so much more treatment needed than people who get their teeth cleaned every 6 months. I've been practicing for 20 years, and I've got a couple of hundred patients, several hundred. Floss every morning, floss every night, get their teeth cleaned every 3 to 6 months. And, you know, hygiene basically runs at a break even. They've been coming to me for 20 years. They've never had anything. The big money is these people come in, they haven't been in for 5 years, they don't brush, they don't floss, they always need root canals and crowns, very expensive surgeries. But remember that if a hygienist works full-time 40 hours a week, even though most do not work 40 hours a week, let's say she worked 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours a year. Give her 2 weeks vacation, give him 2 weeks vacation. 2,000 hours per year means they could see 1,000 people twice a year for an hour, assuming no children for half-hour appointments, assuming nobody on 3 or 4 month recall. That means if you get 10 new patients a month, you would be adding a hygienist every 100 months. If you got 20 new patients a month, you'd add a hygienist every 50 months. If you got 30 new patients a month, every 33 months, every 3 years, you'd add another hygienist. So look at 30 new patients a month. Every 3 years, you'd add another hygienist. You've been practicing 9 years, and you don't have 3 full-time hygienists. Let's say you have 1 full-time hygienist. Then you know that 2 out of 3 people in your area are not have not been sold on regular cleanings. Maybe they're, and I, when I started purging charts, when I started back in 1987, everybody said, after 3 or 4 years, purge your charts. And I found that to be so crazy because there's just people, huge percentage of them. And maybe it's Phoenix, Arizona, I don't know. There's just huge numbers of people that come in every 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, people will come in and say, oh yeah, you're my dentist, I've been coming to you for 20 years. And I'm thinking, okay, why can't I not pick you out of a police lineup? How can you be my patient for 20 years? Am I that retarded? And you look at the chart, yeah, they come in 87, came in 95, now they're in 2005. They've seen me 3 times in 20 years. They think I'm their dentist. They tell people I'm their dentist. I've seen them 3 times. 3 for 3 was a root canal buildup and crown or an extraction or whatever. So, and that's another great thing with digital. We used to purge charts, I think, because there were so many of them. They were bulky and they were getting full. But now with digital, there would be 0 reason to purge a digital chart. You just add more memory. So think of that hygiene capacity. And I want you to understand that hygiene capacity just so you have a really good visceral gut feeling, a statistical backing of how many of your patients are actually being sold on preventive dentistry. So get your recall going. Another way to get your recall going is on your endo patients. Notice, I don't know if it's standard of care or not, but I do know one thing. endodontists always, most of the board certified endodontists tell their patients after root canal they want to see them 1 year later just to make sure everything went right. And especially if it has a periapical radioluciny, they want another periapical PA to make sure that periapical radioluciny is gone or has got smaller, that doesn't need to go back and have an apicoectomy or something, whatever. And so I've been doing that for my endo just because when we get under the root canal, we schedule a 1 year recall, and you have to come in and do this to warranty your root canal. You cannot miss the 1 year recall for a root canal, and then 3 years later it's failing, come back in because maybe there's a periapical radiolucity. I did the root canal, I got to the apex, I got all cleaned out, it's all fine. But you know, at that point in a year, and say I got half as small, I may elect to maybe reflect back and clean that out before somehow the bugs get back up in there or whatever. Bottom line is, what am I doing? It's another scheduled way to get my patients back in, so I got another shot at trying to convince them that they need to floss, they need to brush, they need to quit drinking Dr. Pepper, they need to get their teeth clean. They had, you know, this is a 1 year recall on a root canal. They have 3 other cavities I diagnosed a year ago, and then I may take a new x-ray and say, you know, now these are almost going to be root canals. A root canal build-up and crown is nearly $1,800, whereas 1 filling is $150. They could do 3 fillings for the price, less money than 1 crown. So preventative. I tell my patients, I even give them this handout, for the price of a root canal buildup and crown, your patient could get 12 cleanings. That's 6 years worth of preventive dentistry. So, you know, for root canal, and that's pricing a root canal buildup and crown at $1,400 and an exam cleaning and bite wings at $100. Prevention behaviors usually lack immediate reinforcing consequences, and they often compete with alternative unsafe or unhealthy behaviors which are reinforced. To decrease inappropriate behavior, behavior change specialists typically focus on increasing the occurrence of behaviors incompatible with the undesired behavior. Health promotion in the 20th century is the modification of human behavior and environmental factors related to that behavior, which directly or indirectly promotes health, prevents illness, or protects individuals from harm. Waiting for a dental appointment is a design choice. You know, these apes are, remember I told you that basically that if a human goes to the store, 50% of the GDP, a human goes to the store, I want to buy this. And you come in and you say, nope, you can't buy it. You have to put it down, come back 30 days later. 50% of the economy cannot pass a 30-day wait period. I mean, people will go out for dinner, they'll get some wild hair and say, you know, let's go test drive a convertible. And, you know, they'll have dinner and they're all fat and they got endomorphins and dopamine swimming around their brain, and it's Friday night and they're with their honey bunny and the convertible's down. It's a good song on the radio and they emotionally flip out and go buy a convertible. But if the government stepped in and said, hey, come on, you're crazy, you had too many chips and salsa, I think you had a margarita, you know, your husband is a truck driver, he's been out of town for a week, why don't you guys just cool off? Why don't you go home for 30 days and then come back? 1 in 2 people don't come back. So they call up your office. Man, I haven't had my teeth cleaned 5 years. Is there any way I can get in? Today's Thursday. Is there any way I can get in tomorrow and Friday? You say, no, I'm sorry. We need to schedule a 2-week cooling off period. See, you haven't had them clean for 5 years. You're all excited and emotional, and I can hear the dopamine running into serotonin in your brain. Why don't we have you cool off just for 2 or 3 weeks? That way we know for sure you won't show up, it'll be a broken appointment cancellation, and it'll be another 5 years before you come in, and we'll probably extract all your teeth and do a denture. So remember how humans work. Patient tracking, you know, use your computer reports. Assign each member of your team full responsibility of 1 report, including the authority and responsibility to improve the score. Every week, purge 1 letter of the alphabet using a 1 letter of the alphabet every week, combing through, like, let's just say tomorrow, next week, we're just going to do A. I'm going to go through A's, clean them all up. Sometimes the computers find out you got duplicates. How can we have 2 different Chris Almanac or whatever the heck? And so purge 1 letter per week. The Vilfredo-Pareto, or known as the Pareto effect or the Pareto rule, is the great mathematician in the Middle East who said the 80-20 rule, which states that 80% of all events can be attributed to only 20% of their causes. This is Mother Nature's mysterious empirical relationship between cause and effect. And you just find it everywhere. If parakeets, you got 100 parakeets, and there's a bunch of singing, 20% of the parakeets are doing 80% of the singing. You see it all over the place. 80% of the patients that came into your office last year were from 20% of your charts. 85% of the beer is consumed by 15% of the beer drinkers. Like, I don't think I've had a beer in, I don't think I've had a beer in 5 years. 80% of your collection problems are from 20% of the patients you treat. 80% of the calories people eat are from 20% of the food items they eat. They'll have a bagel and cream cheese, and that cream cheese will be 80% of the calories, and the bagel will be 20. 80% of your staff problems arise from 20% of your staff. I think we've mastered at getting rid of those. 80% of the clothes you wear are from 20% of your closet. You know that. 80% of your profit in dentistry comes from 20% of your procedures, and that's basically a root canal and a crown and an extraction. Oral health is the ultimate objective and product of dental care. The primary goal of dentistry is to produce good oral health as efficiently and low cost as possible, and that's from JADA. From 1988 to 1994, the average number of disease-missing and filled surfaces among American children aged to 17 years was 2.5. Now remember, this is a decrease of 65% from the average of 7.1 disease-missing filled surfaces from 71 to 74. So basically 1970, average child had 7 disease-missing filled surfaces, and here you go to 1988, it's down to 2.5. So American dentists have done good. Most of this benefit, I still believe, was from water fluoridation, which I'm sad to say that, that romantic, sacred day, January 24, 1945, Grand Rapids, Michigan, adjusted the fluoride in the level to 1 part per million, the same as the ocean, which covers 70% of the planet. And then toothpaste companies, remember Ipana, brush with Ipana, had no fluoride, and then Colgate came out with MFP, which the public thought was maximum fluoride protection, and dentists thought it was monofluorophosphate at 1,000 part per million. That's been the lion's share of what's caused this. The 2 most common reasons that 56,399 patients gave the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta for not having a dental visit in the past year, number 1 reason was 44.6% perceived that they did not have a problem. Now, if I ask any dentist on the planet, they'll say, oh, it's always money. Cost, 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 cost. That was actually the number 2 reason at 26%. So 44.6% perceived they did not have a problem. And this is another reason we went digital. I mean, I will go into your office and you'll have 10 patients come in, 8 patients coming in for recall. And one by one, they just walk in. I say, okay, now you were here 6 months ago. You're a hygienist. Did you have any dental treatment, cavities, anything like that? No. She said, I look great. And you're looking in church, you got an MO on 3 and a DO on 4. Because why? Because the hygienist look at that, and then she looks at x-rays. Okay, you have an MO on 3. Well, I wouldn't know what that means. And then you have a DO on 4. And then the doctor comes in, how's everything look? Oh, great, doctor. I just noticed on the x-ray, I think there's an MO on 3 and DO on 4. She goes, yeah. And then he looks around and says, well, Megan, you look great. Do you have any questions, any problems? And she's like, no. She gets up and leaves. All she heard was, I look great. She didn't know what a MO and a DO was. What's an MO, a DO? You dogmatically speak Latin in a tone of certainty, and none of your patients understand what it means. It's a dead language. You remind me of a Catholic priest facing the altar back in Germany in 1500. So by doing the diagnodent, writing down the score, giving them the sheet, taking the digital x-rays, handing that to them, your patient notes when you're done, print that out, give it to them. They leave with everything. It's communication, communication, communication. And let me tell you another thing. The Centers for Disease Control survey, 56,399. You will never see a survey that big again on this subject. I mean, this was just, to say this is a huge study is unbelievable. I mean, it's beyond huge, and this is your reason why you have to quit writing prescriptions in Latin. You have to quit using Latin. Just get rid of Latin, and I'm sure if you're Catholic, it'll be much harder for you, but just get over it. Another thing we do wrong is we continue to tell patients, like when we do the probing, I think that hygienists can double the teaching benefits when they do their probing, if they first say, first, Howie, you're 40 years old. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure your gums first, only where the brush goes. This is going to grade your brushing. And remember, the bacteria that eat your teeth can't live in oxygen. So you breathe air, you breathe 20.9% oxygen. Let's go measure your gums. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. You can say, well, I think you're brushing fairly well. You're missing by the gums, so you're brushing fairly well. But what's really going on is they probably breathe a hell of a lot of oxygen. So now let's go back and measure your gums in between your teeth, where you're 40 years old. You already have 9 existing flossing fillings that go in between your teeth, or flossing crowns that go in between your teeth. I'm looking at your x-rays. Right now, you came in with 9 existing flossing restorations from not flossing, and you have 2 flossing cavities. Both of those are underneath an old flossing filling. Now let's measure your gums. 5, 6, 4, 4, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 4. And you start thinking like this, the patient's automatically just laying there going, busted. I mean, what do you say to the hygienist? Hey, that's crazy. I floss every morning. I floss every night. I carry floss to work. I mean, they're just laying there thinking, wow, yeah, she's right. I'm 40. I don't floss my teeth. I don't know why. I've heard of it. I know I should. But patients know they should exercise and they don't. I'm not an idiot. I know I eat way too much ice cream. Last night, after I had an ice cream sandwich, I had to go back and eat another one. And as you're eating it, you're just like, why do you have to eat another one? You just had one. And, but patients know this, but the more we can sit there and keep telling them so they can concretely understand it, the higher chance we have that they'll attain patient mastery and one day pick it up. I also like to tell them with their gums that Socrates, at like 600 BC or 500 BC, defined infection as bleeding, swelling, tenderness, pus, or pain. And the words they used were dolor for pain, calor for heat, which is now calories, rubor for redness, swelling, tumor for swelling. And when they see those gums, and they see that they're puffy, and they see that they're bleeding, they understand that that's infection. And that's inflammation is linked to infection. Another thing I think dentists have to do is I think the American Dental Association has to take away the toothpaste seal of approval if the toothpaste is red. I still see that for 20 years. How do you miss that blood? Now, when you spit out your toothpaste, do you see blood? No. It's like I can take a Q-tip and just push it and get blood. And I'll say, well, what do you brush with? Oh, what's that, close up? Oh, yeah, red toothpaste. Yeah, if it's a red toothpaste, you would spit out, you'd never see red blood. Toothpaste and toilet paper need to be white because people need to know when they're bleeding out of either end. And no one would sell red toilet paper, and I think it's absurd and criminal and completely disease-causing to have red-colored toothpaste. And so here's healthy gums, and you can show the patient pictures of unhealthy gums. And the other thing is, like I grew up with 5 sisters. My dad owned a restaurant. I never, ever lift up a hood of a car, ever. My wife grew up, 5 brothers. They have a farm. She does maintenance. She hangs shelves. I mean, in our house, if you looked at what our jobs were, you would think, if I just said who does what, you'd think I was the woman and she was the man. And bottom line is, when she looks under a car hood, she's seeing totally different stuff than what I do. I've never changed oil. I remember one time we were married like 3 or 4 years or whatever. She said, Howard, you never change the oil in your car. You hear that? That's your lifters. I'm thinking, what are lifters? I don't know what lifters are. All I know is if you turn up third eye blind real loud, you won't hear any lifters. And then one day she said that she was going to add oil or whatever. She told me to get the oil stick. And I think she just messed with me. She told me to find it. And I looked for about 10 minutes and gave up. And then she went right there and pulled it out. But the bottom line is, when hygienists and dentists look in the mouth, we see is there gingival stippling. We see all these things. And the patients, when they look at their mouth, you'd be surprised. They're probably not seeing half of what we're seeing, because that's all we look at. And I see that also with my wife and friends and families. Like, the movie will be over and she'll say, that one character, and I'll say it was in a blue dress, and I'll say, oh, the one with the big crown. Or the hardest movie I have to watch is Tom Cruise. It's his midline. It's so far over, it's almost on the next patient. If he's talking to someone else, his midline is almost on their teeth. And I just can't, I can't listen to his words because I'm just sitting there aghast at his teeth and his midline and his bite, wondering, was he a thumb sucker? Did he have a binky? Does he still suck his thumb? But the bottom line is, you have to point this out. You got to get them looking in there. And that's another reason why I like to do in-office bleaching, white fillings, because once a patient starts liking what they see, they start looking more. No one wants to look into a Pandora's box. I think toilets have done a huge disservice to Americans. In China, it's well documented in public health centers. I'm halfway through I got my master's in business from Arizona State University. I'm halfway through my master's in public health from University of Arizona. And then talk about in China, where if a little baby goes up to its mother at age 5 and says, I don't feel good, first thing the mother asks, well, how are your stools? I mean, if your stools fall apart and are runny, you have inflammation, leaky gut syndrome, something's disagreeing with your system. It could be food or bacteria. What did you eat? They're trying to backtrack because it takes 3 days to pass. If your stools float, they're high in fat. If they're, in constipation, I mean, they're all in it. Americans, we don't talk about that. That's nasty. It's gross. It's disgusting. You go in a toilet, you go to the bathroom and you wipe and you leave. And I have a very good friend who's a gastroenterologist, and he says it's just shocking. Like, Grandpa will come in, he'll pass out, they'll call an ambulance, they'll bring him in. He has completely ulcerated colon, has to have a, what is that called when it comes outside? A colostomy. Thank you, Amy. And they'll say, well, tell me how your stools are. And they don't know. Or some will say, well, it was black water. Well, how long has it been black water? Well, it's always been that way. 10, 20 years? You had black water runs for 10 years. You never told anyone? Bowel movements aren't supposed to be black water. And people don't look at their teeth. They don't notice they bleed. And the hygienists and the dentists, we have to completely spend all of our time not talking about Oprah Winfrey, not talking about hurricanes, not talking about 9/11, the war in Iraq. We need to stay focused on if we get their level of understanding to our level of understanding, it's going to be a 99.9% chance they're going to have their teeth at 65 and not be wearing a denture. Digital x-rays again. When you take an x-ray and you give it to Frank and you can take a red pencil and say, Frank, your bone should be right here. Right here. Your bone is right here. This tooth, if you sneezed really hard, would fly out and hit someone in the eye. Okay? We're about to lose this one. What we need to do now is we need to splint these teeth together because there's no support here. We need to do a bone graft, yada, 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 yada. But the bottom line is they have to see this stuff. They have to take it home. Now think of Grandpa going home. Instead of Grandma in the old days, hey, Grandpa, how was your dental visit? Good. What did the doctor say? Oh, he said everything looks good. I might have an area of concern or something, but pretty much look good. That's what he'd say. And Grandma would think, well, that's good. But then he comes home with 3 sheets of paper. And Grandma's like, what's this? Well, what's that red line? I guess that's where my bone should be. Damn, Frank, where's all your bone? And, I chewed tobacco for 40 years and I still smoke cigars and basically get drunk every night and I don't brush or floss. And he said that might have something to do with it. And periodontal disease, inflammation, halitosis, the presence of inflammation or hemorrhage within the oral cavity will accentuate the putrefaction process and the resultant intensity and quality of the odor. What am I saying there? Simply also little kids. Little kids don't get into brushing and flossing. But I can get more kids in high school to start flossing by just simply telling them, if you don't floss your tooth, Greg, and you walk up to little Mary Lou or Amy Lou and say hi, and you have that in between your teeth anaerobic bacteria, where those bacteria, they come out, they react with oxygen, it's a putrefaction process, and it stinks. And she's going to sit there and say, God, he's got bad breath. And the minute they think you have bad breath, they're not going to want to take you to the dance. So you can get high school students to floss simply by just extracting them bad breath. Even though Americans are using record amounts of artificial sweeteners, they're also consuming record amounts of sugar, thanks in large part to soda. Most of the following statistics come from a new report from the Centers for Science and the Public Interest. The per capita intake of refined sweeteners in the U.S., 152 pounds a year. Increase since 1970, 2.5 pounds. Percentage of all calories consumed by the average American supplied by added sugar, 16% of all calories, sugar. Supplied by soda for the average teenager, 9%. Calories provided by added sugars in the average American's daily diet, 300 calories. Proportion of refined sugar consumption in the U.S. provided by soda, more than 1/3. Do you understand that? More than 1/3 of sugar is coming in from soda. And the soda is an unbelievable thing. By the way, the principal came in. And it's funny how you really got to listen to other people, because the principal came in, and I said to him, I said, you know what? I said, as a dentist, I know I got to give you a little flack. He says, but, you know, I told him I thought it was an outrage that my kids have vending machines selling pop all over their high school campus, and even and I just think that's an outrage. They should have bottled water, this and that. He just started laughing. He blew. I said, you're just a dentist. That's crazy. And I said, well, it's not crazy. I said, losing your teeth, having cavities. I mean, come on, this country has to have a dentist for every 1,850 people, and they spend $85 billion a year just repairing all the damage from this sugar. He said, Howard, I don't care about their teeth, and I don't care about their sugar, and I don't care about all that stuff. He goes, you know what? He goes, every time I make the high school more disciplined, more kids drop out. He said the Hispanics will drop out the first. He says by age in Phoenix, Arizona, by, you know, like senior high school, you know, over 1/3 of them won't finish. And he goes, Africans are next, then Europeans. But he says if I say, yeah, no Coke, no candy, it's just going to be fruit and vegetables, and we're going to all exercise every morning in PE. He said, I could run my dropout rate for Hispanics to half, African Americans a third. He says, I have to, you know, if they come in and they want a Dr. Pepper and some Cheez-Its, if that's what will make them stay in school. And he said to me, he says, well, would you rather have a country where everybody had perfect teeth and no one could read or write? Or everybody was educated and had no teeth? And I said, well, you got me. And so, you know, there's two sides to every story. And average annual consumption of soda is now 54 gallons per person per year. Only 24% are artificially sweetened. But it doesn't matter about the artificially sweetened, because remember, artificially sweetened soda pop still has a pH of about 4.5. And that still promotes the Streptococcus mutans, where a normal pH of any animal is around 7. Increase in per capita consumption of soft drinks in the U.S. since the early 70s is right at about 100%. Increase in per capita consumption of soft drinks in the U.S. since 1985 is up 43%. Here's a ranking of the following for sugar content total calories. Coke is 39 grams of sugar. Milky Way is 35 grams of sugar. Twinkies, which by the way just filed for bankruptcy with Wonder Bread, and I hope to heck someone saves them. And Twinkies, 28 grams of sugar, and 6 Oreos is 26 grams of sugar. So sugar, and that's from the Berkeley Wellness newsletter, and I love that newsletter. But so remember, you're a doctor. I don't care if you're a receptionist, assistant, or the hygienist or the dentist. You're all doctors. Latin, docere, teach. Keep teaching so your patients can have dental mastery. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan. The next virtue is the virtue veritas, which is truthfulness, honesty in dealing with others. Is your office patient-centered or dentist-centered?
Very good, Ryan. And Ryan, why don't you tell them about your club that you started?
It's called Super Suit Friday at my middle school, and every Friday me and my friends wear suits, and I have like business cards, and my vice president has a business card.
But so what was the goal of Super Suit?
No, I just like suits, so we wore them.
Well, very good. Because dressing for success, everything. You know why? Because when someone's looking at you, the right side of their brain is analyzing, you know, your look, your culture, what you're doing. Are you trustable? You scare me? While the left side of the brain is analyzing the information. And if the information makes sense, but the right side doesn't really analyze it, doesn't like what they see, they don't listen. So wearing a suit, dress for success, getting a haircut, is all these things. Excuse me. But okay, guys, thank you. And so the virtue veritas, truthfulness. You know, we say that the 3 legs of managerial economics is very simple. You know, who makes what decisions, decision-making process, what is the score, what are they actually seeing, and what is the reward? All people chase incentives. I mean, the bottom line of free enterprise. The bottom line of the United States of America versus South America is, in America, almost every single person is invested in where they live, the land, the capital, the building, the business. And when we get to South America, there's just so many people landless squatter peasants, too few landlords, too few the population is incentivized. But when we get to the score and who makes what decisions, cultures take over. Like in the United States, the average person works 1,821 hours a year, whereas Italy's down to 1,600. That's 200 hours less. France is 1,532. Germans are down to 1,467. Well, if our culture, if our average American works 300 more hours than the average German, we're just going to have so much more productivity. You don't realize that between 1965 and 1989, European industry created approximately 10 million new jobs, while U.S. industry created close to 50 million new jobs. Why does the United States create 5 new jobs for every one Europe does? It's too much regulations, too many unions, you can't fire people. The hidden tax, the tax on society is the IRS, federal tax, state tax, local tax, sales tax, whatever, and everybody sees those tax. But the tax that's twice as big, or in Europe's case, the tax that's 5 times as big, is all the regulation. Regulation is the hidden monster tax that dwarfs capital cash tax. But back to decision making. 3 legs of managerial economics. Who makes what decisions? What are my incentives, rewards? But what is the score? They say in managerial economics that if a rat licks a switch and it shocks them, even a rat won't lick it again. But if a rat licks a switch and it gives them M&M, a rat will go back and lick it. But when we look at the score, look how bizarre it is to people's minds. Like Bill Clinton was a Rhodes Scholar. He was supposed to be a really, really smart guy, okay? And look how he looked at smoking, where he thought smoking cost Americans money. And just like, how could you think smoking costs Americans money? And by the way, that whole smoke thing's propaganda, where before World War II, you didn't even have like 4 million smokers in the United States. Then during World War I and World War II, what did the government do? They bought a pack of cigarettes and issued every GI a pack every day. They thought it'd be good for his nerves or whatever. And they all come back smoking a pack a day. And that whole time, government was taxing it at almost 50%. So here's the government buying them and handing them out to every soldier. Here's the government collecting taxes on them for 50 years. Then Clinton sees that and said, you know what? The tobacco companies are evil and they need to be sued because they're costing us money. Okay, let me get this right. You die at 65 years old from lung cancer, and who did that cost money? Oh, what do we want? A country of all Mormon ladies who never smoke or drink and all live to be 100, and retire at 65 to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and get benefits every month for 40 years in a country that has $7 trillion of deficit? I mean, if this country looked at the financial mess they were on, they would start sending free cartons of cigarettes to every American starting at age 40, and they'd call them Patriot cigarettes. They'd say, your country is so broke, we're going to ask you to smoke. We need you to smoke and die and be gone by 65 because we're dead broke. And when economists do the math, they find that every time that you smoke a $1.37 in tobacco will save the country $1.95. So the government got you smoking. The government got half the money from smoking. Yet Clinton sees that as the tobacco company's wrong and smoking's bad. And I mean, so the bottom line is, what apes see the score is where most of the errors are. Another great error is in seatbelts, airbags. People think, back to decision making, people think airbags save lives. And they think seatbelts save lives. And I mean, there just could be, that's exactly oppositely wrong. But people think, well, seatbelts is a good thing. And it's a good thing, and I want to believe it's a good thing, so I'll deny all the science. And I say, well, I know seatbelts make you feel good, but they kill people. Because, see, basically, it's back to the reward. The patient sees the seatbelt and the airbag, and they feel safe. So they make a decision, and they drive faster, and they die more. I mean, last year in America, was it 4,000 people died on motorcycles, 19,000 or died in cars? I mean, the death in cars runs between 20 and 40, basically between 20 and 32,000 a year. It's a kind of a huge variance. But the bottom line is, when we have data on how many people have died per million miles driven for 100 years. I mean, Ford was, back in the early 1900s, and the seat belts was a huge surge in people dying. And the next biggest thing was the airbags. Your mom, when you were younger, in that old station wagon, barely staying on the road and it's a bucket of bolts, she'd only drive 30, 40 miles an hour. Your car is so smooth and you feel so safe, you're flying down the freeway 70 miles an hour. If they really wanted to save lives, here's what they would do, and they know this. They would ban seatbelts, they would ban airbags, and on every steering wheel, by law, they'd mount a 6-inch sharp dagger. And everybody get in their car and they think, gosh, there's a sharp dagger pointing right at my heart. They'd be driving 30 miles an hour down the road. If anybody started tailing them, they'd slow down and get out and say, hey, quit tailing me. So just because you believe it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you believe Marlboro got the nation smoking when it was really the military, as long as you believe it, you think it's true. Another great example is that Dale Earnhardt. The guy was driving 185 miles an hour and hit a wall. And immediately look what all the humans say. You know what the problem was? It's with his seat. He should have had a headrest. If he would have had a headrest to hold his head back, he'd have been fine. No, if he wanted to have been fine, he shouldn't have been driving 185 miles an hour when he hit the wall. He should have slowed down. I'm sure if he hit the wall at 15 miles an hour, he'd be fine. But, did you watch that Star Wars movie when they're flying around in those whatever the heck, and they hit rocks and explode? So humans believe what they want to believe. Look at all the major religions. They just start with this belief. I love the religions. God came down and gave me these 2 tablets. Great, can I see them? Oh, no. After I read them, I had to give them back to God. Yeah, he needed them. Yeah, after he made the whole universe, he needed those 2 tablets back. They just start with what they want to believe, and then they work backwards from there. So humans are very, very tricky when it comes to their mind. Dentist, we know from the virtue industriousness, we keep telling them to work more hours. And they'll look you in there and say, well, Howard, I've always heard the dentists that work less hours make more money. Okay, well, that's pretty much the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but, and you believe that? And they say, yeah. And I said, where did you hear that? Oh, I just heard it from someone. They have very selective listening skills. They believe only what they want to believe. Here's another thing they didn't want to believe. Before Reader's Digest came out in February 1997 with an exclusive investigation of how dentists rip you Americans off, every dentist in America knew that his mom and dad subscribed to Reader's Digest. Every dentist in America had read a Reader's Digest before. It was just it's an American icon. And the minute they came out with this, you should have heard the dentists back. No, we should sue them. We should take it out of our waiting rooms. These people are horrible. Hey, you have to take criticism. You have to take correction without rejection. You have to listen to what they said. And what they said was definitely true. They simply took a set of x-rays and some study models to 25 different dentists to say, what would you do? And they got 25 different answers. And you call yourself a scientist? You're a doctor of what? A doctor of dentistry or a doctor of variance? Dentistry, look on Dental Town. People put up a case. Everybody argues about what it should do. In the old days, we would have PubMed to go through to look up research. And this was a government institution. It's the National Library of Medicine. The government had spent several $1 billion for several years, and it was the most archaic, computerized system. I hated it. And then here's free enterprise for free, no government money, doesn't even cost me. People miss this on Google, but listen to this. If I put endodontics and I go in and do a Google search, it defaults to the web, and it will bring up, 426,000 websites with the word endodontics on it in 0.07 seconds. But that's just too much garbage and trash. If I put in endodontics but clicked images, then I would pull up tons of root canal images. I might want to use these for my patient handouts or something or whatever. If I pushed endodontics and hit groups, it would pull up groups of endo people. But I go here and I click more, and then I bring up either university search or my favorite scholar search. So now I put in endodontics and I hit scholar, endodontics scholar search, and now it only brings up 9,490. They're all articles You can do further search, but I'm telling you that people will say things like, well, if the tooth has a root canal, it has to have a crown. Okay, that's just simply not true. I mean, look at the anterior crown. You sit there on the lower mandibular anterior where you have this big cervical constriction around the neck of the tooth, and you do a root canal down the middle. By the time you prepare it back for a crown, you're looking at a grain of rice. Now, doctor, do you really believe that filing down a tooth to a grain of rice with some pink rubber down the middle benefited the tooth? I mean, the only thing it benefited was whoever wanted to bill out a crown. So when you say when you say composites last longer than amalgams, yet you can't find a single study. In fact, every study you see that amalgams last, at least 30, 40, 50% longer than composites. Just because you say it and you get a bunch of your incentivized friends who make money off this belief to all agree from it, it still doesn't make it right. I mean, when the entire Catholic Church said the earth is flat, and Copernicus thought it was round, but Galileo had the guts to come out and say it, and said, no, the sun does not revolve around Rome. The earth is a little ball, and it revolves around the sun, and Rome has nothing to do with it. And Galileo spent the last 7 years of his life in jail because he said something the Catholic Church didn't want to hear. They wanted to hear that Rome was the center of the universe and the sun went around it. And one of the greatest scientists of his time, Galileo, spent the last 7 years of his life in jail. Well, just because you can go to a study club and say, by show of hands, how many people believe this? Just because you can get 25 people out of 25 in your study club to raise their hand doesn't mean it. Every pope and cardinal and bishop raised their hand if the sun went around the earth. But go find me the research. That's another reason I love John Kanka so much. John Kanka is always on Dental Town. He's a research hog. So is Marshall White. And these guys, they just find literature after literature after literature. They quote the literature. Fred Barnett's unbelievable too on endo. Fred Barnett quotes the literature like any reverend does the Bible. And like I say, just because you say it doesn't make it true. Go to the case presentation sections. It's been always amazing at the discussions and debates going on. And I think Reader's Digest in '95, when every dentist was isolated and practicing mostly by themselves, there was a huge variance. But I think the internet connecting all of these 1 out of 1850 U.S. dentists into one big site where they can all start talking to each other, I think is rapidly lowering the variance. The internet is going to lower the variance. You might do a keyword category like MTech implants and see all the different ways people use them, and some people use them permanent teeth. I mean, everybody's doing something different. Dentists share cases and enjoy compliments and critiques. And I am so proud of all you townies who have posted cases, because most dentists, they're so afraid someone would critique them or tell them something they did wrong or tell them they could do better. They're used to being the god in their area, and they're not used to having someone say, you know what, that doesn't look very good. I would have done it completely different. But go there and watch these, because these pioneers who are mastering dentistry with digital cameras, posting their cases, having enough self-esteem and confidence to keeping their mind open for correction. These guys are the true pioneers, and these are the guys and gals that are going to reduce the variance of how dentistry is done today. Thank you very much.
The virtue felicitas, happiness or prosperity, a celebration of the best aspects of Roman society. Reward patients who refer new patients to your office with gift certificates, coffee mugs, or any other unexpected prizes. If you don't ask, your patients won't tell. Howard?
Thank you, Tom. That was the editor of Dental Town magazine. I'm a lucky man to have Tom on the team. Probably the brightest dentist I've ever met, and I mean that sincerely. The virtue, felicitas, happiness, reward referrals. You know you have to do this. This is, instead of you interrupting people, touting your own horn, your patients should be touting your own horn. And when they do this, you need to give them something. And it's not the gift. And here's something we found out over the years. When we started making the gifts bigger and bigger and bigger for people who referred more and more, it actually kind of weirded them out. and it backfired on us. What we found out is that when you give referrals, a cheesy little coffee mug, it's the thought that counts. If they refer you 20 patients from work and you send them a color television, I mean, we did some things like that where some people went to work and referred like half the place, and it was very, very profitable. We said, well, we can't get movie tickets. But it did 3 or 4 times when the gifts got really big, because we had some people that were just crazy for us. It did weird them out. They thought, this is just weird. So it's the thought that counts. Keep it simple. 2 tickets to a movie theater, a coffee mug, some gifts, but just the fact that you acknowledge them, it does touch them. And here's a coffee mug that we'd send, and I would take the business card and write on the back, "Dear Joan, the greatest gift a patient can give is a referral, friend, or loved one. Thank you for so much confidence in today's dental, Howard." And we put in peanuts, almonds, lifesavers. Lately we've been doing, I don't know why, but that's Nestle's hot chocolate mix, gum, 2 tickets to the AMC movie theater, a couple mints, a coupon, a card, whatever. Some people like these coffee mugs. I can't stand them. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Send them something. Just acknowledge it. Make it fun. Just fun, cheesy. I mean, some lifesavers. When's the last time you bought lifesavers? Something cheesy. But be real leery of expensive dinners at restaurants and lavish gifts for people that referred 100 patients, things like that, because it does weird them out. Also, back to working existing social networks. I mean, I take my little area of town, my 2 zip codes, it's about 80,000 people. There's only 2 high schools. There's only 6 middle schools. There's so many elementary schools. There's only like 18, 20 churches. There's 1 Awatuki Kiwanis Club. There's 1 Rotary Club. There's only so many social networks you can pick off. But like when the Kiwanis want to have their Say No to Drugs breakfast, we get involved. We help them out. We cook up pancakes. When churches come by and you, they say they're having a fundraiser, we make these certificates. This certificate is good for a free examination, full set of dental x-rays, regular cleaning, fluoride treatment, gum disease screening, the whole kit and caboodle. Another one for, where we might include bleaching or whatever. But even if you just make these up and send them to a church and say, or your school or your high school, if next time you're having a raffle here, you can raffle these off. It's just very, very good network marketing with the existing social networks inside your community. Now, external marketing, when Judith and I opened up, we've told this story before where we literally went door to door every Saturday and Sunday morning for 3 or 4 hours. We walked the entire neighborhood. It took us half a year. And we walked down every single street, rang every single doorbell. They opened the door, shook their hands, told them, "Here's Judith and I. We're the new dentists up at the corner, 48th and Warner, or 48th and Elliott. We're going to be practicing there for 40 years. We plan to have kids, raise our family. Just want to get out and meet the neighborhood." And about every 3rd door, they would say, "You know what? I'm going to have to make an appointment at your place." And I'd say, "Really? I got the appointment book right here." And I'd open up and make an appointment. Saturday and Sunday, we would not go home on Sunday until Monday through Friday, 7 to 7 was completely booked up, cleanings, exams, x-rays. Again, letters to the editors. When something comes up, when you're watching evening news and it steps on your emotional dental button, get on your email and type out a Word document and email it to your local letters editor. I've had so many letters to the editor published, I don't even collect them anymore. Dental Health Month is every February. So, the first thing after the holidays, when you come back January 1, by Martin Luther King Day, you should have your whole plan on what you want to do for February. Which schools you're going to visit, how many of these dental health kits are you going to hand out. If your area has, small towns have fairs, parades, carnivals. Our Awatuki just has one deal, Awatuki Parade. Every Easter, make a float, get involved. These are the things that emotionally stick. These are the real things. Public oral health screenings. We do Awatuki only has 1 movie theater. So we have our 3 little slides in there showing dentistry, amalgams versus composites, pre-bleaching, after bleaching, before ortho, after ortho. Direct mail is always the king. Direct mail where you just go get all the labels for your zip code and put something together. And we just like the card stock. We don't like a envelope because an envelope someone has to open, and they're not going to even play. They're going to look at that junk mail, throw it away. But if it's a card, they're going to look at it and say, okay, junk mail, throw it away. But in the time they determine junk mail, throw it away, they just saw it's a dental office, 50% off bleaching or whatever, or $50 off something major, 25 off something minor. Yellow Pages is also good, but Yellow Pages really, really confuses people because Yellow Pages, you have to buy into the assumption that all of your patients are left-handed, pick up their book with their left hand, pick up the book with their left hand, put it in their right hand, and then turn the pages just like the book is. And see, Chinese language is written right to left. They were started by a right-handed person, and English language was started by the 11% who are left-handed, and our words go right to left. The point I'm trying to make is that people that are right-handed like myself pick up the book with the right hand, put it in the left hand, and they open it back to front. That's 89% of the people are going back to front. And then they're trying to sell you that everybody's left-handed, puts it in their right hand, and opens it the correct way, and that they're going to see the big ads up front first. And what's weird about ads is that since only 11% are left-handers, they're more likely to come in from the back. So the thing you need to do with your Yellow Page advertising is remember that little ads in the back of dentistry do just as good or better than full page ads near the front. So you got to remember that. So with a Yellow Page ad, I'd rather have a half page ad or one full page front up front, a little ad in the back. But, remember, 89% are right-handed people, and they're going to be coming in through the back door of that phone book. So remember that. Children, again, we talked about earlier. I mean, McDonald's has a play area for children. You have to have one. And here we have a play area for kids. There's my son, Greg. And he's playing, I don't know what he's playing, Mario Brothers, whatever. We have the little thing for the cavity club. The kids love that. They have their picture taken. They didn't have a cavity. They put on the wall. We have them up there for the month. There's the play area. Also, market your family. I mean, people with family, mothers with kids, when they find out that you have kids, they have more confidence that you'll be able to deal with their kids. Kids are a vital part of the community. So I've always had a picture of the family go around for years. And I got this one out with the boys. And this one's also very necessary because every time a kid comes in, he's in high school, I'll say, oh, do you know my son? And they're not quite sure, and you show them a picture, and they recognize them. And the best marketing we actually ever did, I have to admit, and this is so bizarre, is every time I had a baby, I took out a full-page ad in the Alwood newspaper and say, Judith and Dr. Howard and Judith Ferran would like to announce their patient of the month, Eric Wells Ferran, date, time, weight, cavity, 0. These ads at the time were $500 for a full-page ad, and they get like $3,000 in baby gifts. And Dr. Howard Ferran would like to announce our patient of the month. There's Gregory Wells Ferran, DDS to be. And my gosh, I wanted a girl so bad. All I wanted was, when we got married, we were going to have one little girl named Megan. And I put on the third one, it's a girl, not 3 boys in a row. And then I put on the bottom, if you know how to make a girl, call Dr. Ferran at 893-1223. I swear to God, I get like 50 or 100 letters on how to make one. And then Zach's the final, it's a boy. And poor Zach came out with all the working parts, so that was the end of that. But these were things where, I mean, people just come in, oh, I saw an ad, that was so cute. And I think by the time we did that with Zach, I kid you not, it was insane. We got like 10 car seats, 1,000 baby outfits. I mean, it was simply amazing how this type of, any type of marketing that can tag something emotional really connects with humans. Every time we had a birth announcement, we always mailed it to all of our existing patients if they're a family. I gave all the boys my wife's maiden name, so all 4 of my boys have her maiden name as a middle name, Eric Wells Ferran. We'd make these little deals, Parents Howard Youth. We sent them to all of our patients. And I think that was 10 times more effective than anything we ever sent out to remind them for a recall. And that's another thing, by giving your staff your own room. They always want to put their baby pictures up. And I know a baby picture, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but when people always bring by their baby, does anybody really think that's cute? Some little baby spitting up all over itself, all bloated. It looks just, it's anything but cute. They all coming around. They all love pictures of it. I've noticed my staff, no matter how ugly their babies are, they want to hang pictures all over the wall. And by letting them have their own room and their own email and dress up their own room and paint it and whatever, It's just more a part of their home. Here's the Ahwatukee Easter Parade, and here's the map Ahwatukee showing all the streets. We crossed out the street in red, we got done walking, and we started down here, and it took us half a year to get up here. And, we'd walk down the street, we'd blow up all these helium balloons, toothbrushes. It was unbelievable. Here's during the Ahwatukee Parade. Here's me unicycling down the street. And here's the parade we made, filled it with all the staff's children. And I forgot if we pulled that or pushed it in a car, not sure. It makes the newspaper. It says there's Dr. Howard for and impress everyone by unicycling the entire route. The front office would make a banner, today's dental 893 care. Just get involved with your community, and it makes them know you're in there for the long run. It's also very important, like if you're in a small town dentist, I can't tell you how important it is to live in that small town. It just kills your credibility when you're practicing in a town of 4,000 and you live an hour away in some big town. Least you could do is just buy a house out there and live in it part-time or weekends or something. But get involved with your community. Healthcare, education, gets involved. I mean, look at the fire department. They're in every parade. Look at the police department. They're in every parade. Every Ahwatukee parade, the fire trucks always come down. There's all the firemen. Some of those firemen have been going to that parade since I've been there for 17 years. And they're an active part of the community. I can't believe how many of my kids say when the police went down there, oh, that's police officer such. He's in the DARE program, drug abuse, resistance, education, something like that. And I said, really? Oh, yeah, he comes into our class every year, and we talk about drugs and staying off drugs. And my kids and I mean, we know the names of some of the firemen, some of the policemen. So community involvement is huge. Then the area, they'll have shopping deals where every once in a while they'll have a deal where, what do they call that? What do they call that when they put up stalls? No one knows. It's kind of like a flea market. I don't know what it is, but what is it? But anyway, in Ahwatukee, one at the community recreation center, they'll have these deals where they'll sell a stall for like, $50, and people will sell little macrame things, or they'll sell arts and crafts or whatever. And we go there and we put up a deal, and we'll stay there and we'll hand out brochures on sealants and gum disease. We'll go down to the Office of Oral Health and get brochures on fluoride, and the Department of Oral Health gives us tons and tons of brochures, and we sit there, and some people are looking at carved wood and wood carved into this and arts and crafts, and they walk by us, and there's our whole staff in uniform and answering information on, when to bring in your kid for a cleaning and fluoride and this and that. And I can't tell you how many old men will walk up to me and say, can you look at this tooth right here? And I'll lean back and I'll look at it and I'll try to tell them what I know from just looking at it. But I'll say what you really need to do is make an appointment. It was one of these health fair parade things, and I'll tell you one time Jan made, it was something crazy. It was like 191 appointments on one Saturday morning. It was literally crazy. Here's the bags we make that we take to the public schools, where something for the kids to color, toothbrush with their name and phone numbers, some sugarless gum, business card, coupon, dental health month, going to schools, handing these out, get them to color. Here's more letters to the editors. 3 Valley cities are living in decay. Every January 25th, just send them in. It's timely, it's relevant. Anytime it's the anniversary of water fluoridation, you get letters to the editor printed. There's fighting for fluoride. This was back when we were fighting for Chandler to be fluoridated. And the press get involved with this stuff because they understand the importance of community health. And once again, get involved with the churches. Every time some minister will say, this person's in need, and can you help them out? And I've always told the ministers that I worked with all the local churches in my area. They sit there. A thank you to Dr. Glenn Moody of the Ahwatukee. We also thank Dr. Howard Fran has provided free dental care for Gary over the last couple of years. It was some special needs patient who was like 40 years old, living with his mother who's like a grandmother, and they're basically destitute, had some dental problems. The minister called me up. We always do that. But this is really good community involvement. It's really good PR. It makes you feel good. It also makes you know that this charity is being targeted because, they got to get a reverend to buy off on that they're special needy. And these reverends are really good at knowing who's making their own troubles and who's just in trouble and needs some help. Warranties are also very important. The government defines a durable good as any item with a normal life expectancy of 3 years or more. Generally, that's automobiles, furniture, household appliances, mobile homes. Every restoration place should have at least a 3-year life expectancy. We warranty everything we do 5 years. It provides patients with a peace of mind. It reduces confrontation. Basically and we also tell them that the patient must return at least one time every year for a cleaning, exam, and X-ray, or the warranty is void. I cannot do a filling and have you show up 4 years, 11 months later, and it's all broken out and decayed, and me warranty it. I mean, you need to come in at least once a year for a cleaning, exam, and X-ray. Just like your car warranty is no good if you don't get your oil changed every 2,000 or 3,000 miles. So warranties are a very big thing. It also reduces confrontational tolerance. Like, what if you did a crown on someone? I've heard this story 100 times in 20 years. Well, he did a crown on me, and it cost a lot of money, and 6 months later, the whole thing fell out. I'll say, well, what did he say when you went back? Oh, I'm not going back. Why? Well, I mean, if he did the first time, it fell off. Why would I do it the second time? And he'll probably charge me again. But see, when you said a warranty, like, look, I'll back this for 5 years. It also helps you with your diagnosing. Because sometimes, so many times, the tooth snaps off the gum line, and you do like a big old root canal and the post buildup. The patient's 65 years old, the root tip's all dry and brittle, and you do all this heroic root canal buildup crown, and then they come in a year later and hand it to you, and you're like, well, we tried. You know, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. We got to pull it now and do something else. Then people start getting bitter about, well, my friend, he got a root canal, and they end up pulling it anyway. And you know, Doc, when you have to warranty it 5 years, it makes your treatment a little more aggressive because, come on, if it can't last 5 years, you're wasting their time. And that tooth should have been extracted in an implant or a bridge or add the tooth to the partial. And the other thing it does for me is if I'm wondering if it's too aggressive, it doesn't matter because I have peace of mind that I don't have to worry about that I'm harming the patient because, you know, if I do that root canal post buildup and it falls out in 6 months, well, I learned a lesson. And this guy, you know, the penalty's all mine. I'm going to redo it. I'm going to have to apply that money spent to the next more aggressive treatment. Everyone has a warranty. You can't buy anything. I don't care if it's a Bose speaker. I don't care what it is. You also need to have patient education seats because every time you do a root canal, Dad's going to walk home and he's going to sit down, and the first thing his wife's going to say is, well, when can you eat on it? He's going to think, when can I eat on it? Oh, hell, I don't know. He didn't say anything. I mean, the guy was only in there 5 minutes, charged me $1,000. They're never going to remember. Then they're always going to blame it on the doctor. And when you give it, you know, if you say it verbally, it's got to be written. Lots of things are going through their mind. And, you know, they might have been on nitrous. They might have had a pre-med. They might have been trying to focus on something else. They might have been watching CNN. And you're talking to them, you don't know what's getting in there, but if you say it verbally to their ear, you got to give them something printed out so they see it in their eyes. Warranties, patient education sheets, their digital x-rays, their perio charting, you know, just hand them a bunch of receipts so they can go home and say, yeah, I spent $2,000. Here's my x-ray, here's my chart, here's my warranty, here's my explanations, here's my prescription. You know, keep them highly educated. There's all the warranties on the wall, easy to grab on the way out, easy to hand to the patients. And when you go to the waiting room, remember, people in the waiting room, you got to learn a couple lessons. One is from Walt Disney. Walt Disney noticed in carnivals that if the line was a mile long, everybody was screaming and complaining. So what he did is he wrapped the line on each other because he noticed that when people stared at people, the time flew by. So on the waiting rooms, you always have the chairs face each other because when humans are looking at other humans, it's just always interesting for a human to look at another human. So Walt Disney realized that. But remember the 8 principles of waiting. Unoccupied time feels longer than occupied time. Give the people in your waiting room something meaningful to do. Preferably something that relates to dentistry. Use this time constructively to generate interest in dentistry, especially elective procedures such as cosmetic dentistry. Don't hang up unrelated artwork. Hang up before and after pictures of beautiful cosmetic dentistry cases. Number 2, pre-process waits feel longer than in-process waits. Have your front office staff begin the patient's appointment by updating all necessary information in the patient's chart. This not only fills the vital need for your management information system, but makes the patient feel like their appointment has started and they're not just sitting around and possibly forgotten. Remember that anxiety makes wait seem longer. This applies to the medical and dental profession especially. Anything you can do to ease attention in the waiting area with friendly staff and distractions such as television or a Nintendo for the kids will make the waits feel shorter. A play area for kids eases stress for both mom and kids. And remember, number 4, uncertain waits are longer than known finite waits. The worst part of waiting is when you don't know how long it will be. It is simple courtesy to let a person know how long they can expect to wait. When an airplane is waiting for their turn for the departure, the pilot makes an announcement to tell if you're 5th or 15th for a departure. An important key is friendly extrovert personalities in your front office staff. Number 5 is unexplained waits are longer than explained waits. If no one explains why the doctor is late, I might assume that he is out on the golf course. However, if someone explains that a little boy just fell off his bike and knocked out his front tooth, I would wait patiently for much longer. The right staff can use these times to build up the doctor's reputation regarding his policy to see emergencies right away. Number 6, remember that unfair waits are longer than equitable waits. Suppose you arrive on time or early for your appointment, but someone who arrived 20 minutes later gets seated before you. This feels very unfair and makes continuing to wait unbearable. Again, the key is a friendly staff who is not afraid to explain why what seems to be unfair actually is fair. For example, the doctor is running late, but that person's appointment was with the hygienist who is running on time. Also remember number 7, the more valuable the service, the longer the patient will wait for it. Of course, I will wait longer for a meal at Ruth Chris Steakhouse than for a taco at Taco Bell. But more importantly, after I have got what I came for, I don't want to wait at all. Again, do anything you can before an appointment to help speed up the customer's checkout at the end of the appointment when waiting seems the longest of all. And number 8, solo waits feel longer than group waits. Misery loves company. Notice how Disneyland has implemented the snake line so that people waiting could pass the time watching and discussing how adorable the kids are while waiting in line. There develops a sense of community while waiting with other people. We are all in the same boat. Everyone's waiting together. And don't hang useless art in your waiting room of like the Three Stooges or crazy stuff. Try to promote yourself. Remember, no one else on the planet is going to promote you. If you want to promote yourself, you're going to have to toot your own horn. And I know this sounds very against everything you think because you're a social animal, and socials try to get everybody to shut up and behave. And like airplanes, this is a fact. I actually talked to a person in the FAA. They know you can talk on a cell phone in an airplane. They know that when planes are flying around, the cell phone towers on the ground are throwing those same signals through them at 100 times more powerful than any cell phone you got. I mean, if you really think someone leaving on their cell phone is going to bring down a 747 in the ocean, or some kid playing his Nintendo, you're literally insane. The reason they ban these things until they get to 10,000 feet, and the reason they ban cell phones entirely, is they're trying to control 140 people in an aircraft. Now, if 140 people in the aircraft, and they're all talking, hey, Susie, hey, no one's listening to the flight attendant, they're trying to get order, turn everything off, shut up, put your seats up, put your tray table up. They're trying to, these little things are little breakdowns to let you know I'm in control. Now, when your seat leans back 2 inches, that's really not going to matter when the plane slams on the ground at 500 miles per hour and no one really cares for your little plastic tray table up. But by getting order, look, put up your seats. And if one person doesn't do it, they're going to go call you and say, now come on, put that seat up. And they're controlling the people. They're saying, put your tray table up, turn everything off, because they need you to pay attention. Because the most dangerous part of an aircraft where you might be able to be saved is right at takeoff, right at landing. If the plane screws up at 7 miles in the air, you're all dead, okay? But if the plane takes off and loses an engine right after they lift off and comes crashing back down, they need everybody in order, not talking on a cell phone, not working on their computer, not doing Nintendo. They need you to be ready, paying attention. And they're just not gonna legalize cell phones because they just say, if 140 people are all talking on your cell phone, no one's gonna be paying attention. It's just gonna be chaos. So remember that in your waiting room, and toot your own horn. Put up your, when you go to gift certificates, like when you go to Gordon or the Pink Institute or the Mission Institute, put up your plaques, diplomas. Have your hygienists promote themselves. By giving them their own room, they can put up all their plaques and diplomas and their Hugh Freedy Golden Scaler Award, pictures of their new born babies, and build a sense of community. Thank you.